Welcome to Soltron. This is a video review for the Perfect E6 Nex set. This is the train Komachi. Here's the Transformers size comparison, so you can see he's slightly bigger than leader class, but probably a little less bulky, maybe equally bulky. And here's a look at his box. So it's very eye-catching, so something if you go into a store you'd probably definitely want to take a look at, or at least I would. It shows you all the different features. So typical Japanese box, it's got a little clamshell on the inside, and then the instructions are also kind of typical. They're just your black and white newspaper print, and then it does come with some stickers which I haven't applied yet, and that's about it for extras. All right, and then let's get the 360 view of him. I think he does look really good with all of his new attachments. I would say this definitely elevates the base form of the figure. Obviously the Gatling gun is a huge highlight, and then the missile pods on the shoulders are really cool. And then he's got like these little rifles for above the shoulder, and then he's also got you can see in the like leg armor, I put some guns in there too, which come with the base figure. But he is looking really good. I like all the extra add-ons. He's a little bit too skinny. I really don't like how they did the legs. Like, they made him taller, which is kind of a problem because he looks like he should just be stocky and powerful. I don't think making him have longer legs really fits the motif. But overall, I'm really pleased with the way this guy looks. I would say like this mode is probably a 9. It's just so cool looking, and the Gatling gun just really sets it off. And then we can get a close-up view of his head sculpt here. It's got a lot going on. It's very complicated looking. I'm not sure what it really reminds me of. The original mask kind of looked like an Oni mask, the original head of the figure. So this one doesn't really communicate kind of anything. Maybe kind of a ninja kind of look, but they all kind of have that going on with their masks and their headbands. But it looks pretty interesting. It's eye-catching, but it's also kind of generic and busy looking in a way. I'm not super into this head sculpt. Let's talk about this accessory. So this is his chain gun. You can see it's very bulky. It's got a lot of different handles on it. Nothing really special. It's like 2 pieces of plastic screwed together. But compared to our leader class Skyquake, there's just a huge difference. My first complaint with this guy was that his gun was just does not fit his build at all. But this gun, if he could actually hold it, which he cannot, you'd have to like put some handles on it. But this gun would clearly be the right size for this guy. This is how big it should have been made. This just looks so much better. And this is something he would actually have to two-hand. So unfortunately, he can't really hold that just as is. Wait, does he have a... Oh, I guess he does have a port down here. I guess we can just peg that in down here. Okay, so that kind of gets it done. How much better does that look? That just really, I think, fixes some of my problems with this guy. It's just so much cooler. So that's a nice thing that these are all 5mm ports. So compared to his original weapon, there's just no comparison. It had to be this, really. Because there's so many ports on this thing, there's just a lot of different ways he can hold it. Like, he can hold this under his fist, which is kind of the standard way that the box shows you. So that's a pretty good look. It looks like he's really handling it. You can also, he's got a port down here. You can just port that. You can use that instead. And then he's got these ones in the barrel. I don't even know how you would... I guess you could port these under here, but it gets really back heavy. I guess maybe for like storage, he can hold it like that. That's kind of cool looking too. It just works. It's just a really cool weapon that probably would work with a variety of figures. That's why I wanted to get this set. This was like part of the big selling point for me. And then I always like these little rifles. So they just peg onto the top of his shoulders here, and they got these joints so they can actually be articulated, which is very nice, so they can point forward. And then of course he can just hold it as a regular rifle in his fist, so he can just hold it by the handle. So that's cool. That's a cool looking look for him too. is for him to just be like dual wielding these rifles. So that's pretty cool. And then he can also just put them under these arm ports. There's just so many ports. There's so many places to plug things in. There's even like these knee ports, and then he's got a couple ports in his legs. You're not really going to get much out of these back ports. There's nothing really in the torso. Yeah, and there's nothing here, so that's kind of a missed opportunity. But you do get some ports in the back of the legs here as well. So plenty of opportunities for customization, at least in the legs. But yeah, really great rifles, which I really enjoy too. So I like that weapon set. And then we got these big missile pods on his shoulders, which are very cool. And then these pegs are articulated, so you can actually pivot this around. So that's a nice touch. You can, of course, rotate them up and down. They're just held on by friction pegs. And then you could pull them out and then swap them with each other. So if you prefer this kind of look, which is very similar but slightly different, so maybe that's better. Or if you prefer like the over the shoulder kind of missile pod look, you can get that going too. So really nice accessories. And then he's got the set of guns that came with the original figure. I think these came in a gray originally, but now they come in like this off kind of gold color. I guess I should be honest, like probably his robot mode is more of an 8 because the gold just, I don't know, it doesn't really work for me. And there's two shades of gold. There's this like really ugly kind of yellow mustard gold. And then you got this coppery, I guess it's just copper actually. The copper is a lot nicer. It's got like metal flake in it. The mustard gold just doesn't really work at all, but not bad. And then of course you can dual wield his pistols. And then he's got like more than 90 degrees at the elbow, so you can get some really cool gunslinger poses going. And I just like to holster the extra guns like onto these pegs, or he's even got pegs on the inside of his calf, just for these huge leg gaps to do something. Like this just doesn't look very good. I really would have preferred that these turn into like an armor that rotates next to the leg or something. It just makes him look too gangly. If the armor could have been front facing, if it could have rotated, it would actually bulk up his legs a little bit and help with his overall look. And just so you can get one more time, this is just what a base Shinkalion figure mostly looks like. So you can see it gives him like half a head of length. That his legs are just a little bit longer, which makes him a little bit taller than a standard figure. And this guy I just popped off his head and it's just held on there with blue tack, because otherwise his head is like as sunken as this head, which is kind of annoying. I wish they would have let the head raise up. But yeah, that's basically it as far as the looks and accessories of this guy. He does have head articulation, but because his head is sunken into his shoulders, you're going to run into these like shoulder bits. So he can't really rotate his head very well. And then of course he's got all 360 on this shoulder on a soft ratchet. He's got a full outward here. You can move his missile pods out of the way. He's got double jointed elbow, as I showed, bicep swivel. He's got a wrist rotation, so perfect articulation so far. And then he's got a waist, which on these guys is kind of annoying. It could have used a soft ratchet or something. It's just a little bit too loose. And then he's got full outward kick, full forward kick, full backwards, all on ratchet, you can hear. And then he's got thigh rotation and then double jointed knees, but it's only going to get you about 90 degrees there. And then he does have a ball joint. Well, actually, no, this is just a pivot joint, ankles, and then it's got a ankle rocker too that goes a little bit back and forth. So you can get like, you can very easily articulate this guy. And I think that's part of the appeal of these figures, is their articulation is so good. You can just get really cool poses out of them pretty effortlessly. Unlike some other figures which you might have to mess around with them and you can only get a couple poses, these guys can do pretty much everything. All right, and I'm just going to swap him out with his basic limbs. I don't feel the need to like transform those on camera. You've seen these if you've seen any of my Shinkalion videos. All right, and here he is back into his standard mode. So this looks just like all the other base Shinkalion figures, nothing special here. All the same articulation even, but I kind of like this just simplified version of him. This is what the stock figure basically was. I still think the gold doesn't really match the figure. It just kind of doesn't work as well as like on this guy. The dark gray, I think, just sets him off a lot better and really highlights his color scheme. But he's okay looking. I wouldn't have bought this figure except for he came with those accessory trains, and I've always been wanting the rifle train. It's just been very expensive to get the legs that come with these is like $60 on Amazon lately for some reason. It's just been very hard to get this accessory train. And this whole figure on Amazon costs like $60, which is a little more than I like to pay because usually these guys run for like $50. They're so cheap usually, but the shipping has been really expensive lately. So I had to pay a lot extra for that, but I think worth it. This guy's definitely better than a leader class figure. So I'm just going to go ahead and transform him into his train mode. All right, and then here's how the trains look when they're transformed, and they of course link up. Nothing new. These Shinkalion Z figures have all been pretty much the same. He unfortunately cannot store his guns anywhere. That's kind of what this accessory train is for. I put like the extra wheels in there for storage. You can fit some of them, but you just basically peg these in here, which is very nice. And then you're just going to put the cover on this. And that's basically your whole train all linked up. And of course it's very stubby looking. Trains do not look like this in real life. And then here he is with the deluxe car. So the scale is definitely off. It doesn't really fit, but oh well. He looks good with other Transformers. That's all I really care about. But yeah, the train is okay. The vehicle mode, because it's so stumpy, and the paint is kind of a satin finish instead of glossy, which doesn't really work. It kind of looks too matte. I would say this train is just not very interesting to the eye like Hayabusa. It's kind of like a 7. I just am not super thrilled with this train. Anyway, let's go ahead and go to his accessory cars. So basically all of these are going to become a couple more train cars. So you're just going to go ahead and set the guns aside because they are not going to fit in anything. They're just too huge. But for the arm transformation, it's very simple. You're just going to unpeg the missile pods. You're going to collapse the arm just like you do with the regular base figure. And you're going to have a lot of gappage. So these figures, you just have to accept there's going to be a lot of parts forming. And then there's even some more parts forming as you're going to disconnect these two parts. I can't even remember how these peg together. Okay. Yeah, these white pegs are really a little bit scary because this plastic is very thin and these pegs are on a little bit tighter than they need to be. It doesn't feel quite right. But anyway, you can see here's like basically the whole train. You're just going to put that onto the arm. It looks like I forgot I switched around the missile pods, so of course I have the wrong pieces. All right, so now I have the correct pieces. Obviously this is just going to peg right here, and then this will just peg on using these two. Actually, using this little slot right here actually is the only thing that holds this on, and then a little tab right there too. And then you have half the train. You're just going to do the same thing with the other arm, sandwich them together. All right, there's that train pretty much complete, and then you got to just kind of ignore that it has a bevy of missiles sticking out the back. And then you're going to stick the wheels on the bottom. Wait, did I do this wrong? That's clearly wrong. What did I do wrong? Maybe I was supposed to use the fist holes instead? This still looks incorrect. Anyway, I'll figure it out. And then for the legs, you can basically tell how everything's going to transform. You're just going to flip up the heel here, and then this big armor piece is going to rotate around. There's a little bit more, which I feel are kind of unnecessary parts forming, where this unpegs from the side. And then you've got this knee piece, which is going to hinge back here. And then this panel is just going to peg back here. And then you got half of that train Same, and then the wheels on this are a little bit more obvious. Those are going to go here. Oh, I need a set of non-hitched wheels to go onto the front. And that looks a lot more correct. And then this will have the combiner wheels back here. And that will just hitch onto that. Unfortunately, the way these are designed is you cannot just continually hitch a train onto a train, because these don't have the front connection. And even if they did, the nose of this train would get in the way. So I think that's unfortunately an oversight. So you cannot just string all the trains together, which is really too bad, because that would make this a little bit more fun. So that's a place where they chose realism instead of playability, and I think that was a missed opportunity. Yeah, these trains are pretty good looking, and given what they do as an accessory pack, I think they're really fun. I don't like the legs so much. I prefer the upper body one that kind of basically comes with this giant Gatling gun. So I think this set is really cool. This set is okay too. I just think the lengthening of the legs was kind of pointless, but you're gonna, of course, peg these cannons onto the side. So at least they can deliver the weapons. That's kind of cool, but it's a little bit ridiculous the way they look. Yeah, you'd be very intimidating if you saw this in real life coming down the railroad track. Okay, and I checked the directions, and no, the train is just supposed to look like this. So that's unfortunate for this guy. But yeah, good set. The only place I know where you can get a decent price for these is on Amazon, Japan. Yeah, I really enjoy these kinds of toys. They're more high quality than Transformers. I think they put a little bit more effort into the paint and into ratchets and things like that, because I think these are probably more popular in Japan. So I would definitely rate the quality as like a 9. And the fun factor, they're just a lot of fun. Like, you can mix and match the pieces. So I kind of accept the parts forming as a consequence of getting to mix and match all the body parts, which makes the set a lot more fun. But anyway, I'll see you in the next one.